So you often hear that common sense is not so common anymore. And I was going to ask you to, is common sense really a thing? Should it be common? What is common sense? How do we define that?
Common sense is absolutely a thing. We all know what it is, and there's that saying that's always been around. You know it when you see it. You know it when you hear it, right? We all have common sense, but a lot of people these days seem to lack it for whatever reason, or they do this weird psyop where they lie to themselves to go along to cause the path of least resistance. But deep down, I think it actually causes more resistance within people's mind. It just doesn't reflect into the world. But I think a lot of people are feeling cognitive dissonance with all sorts of things that we're being told, whether it's in school or by our government or by a friend group, a teacher, a parent. The list goes on and on. And a lot of people are afraid of kind of standing up and saying things that are super non-controversial because they're afraid of someone coming out and being mad about it.
Mm-hmm. So what I think about this is when we say common sense, it sounds like you believe that there is an objective value system that people should have from birth, but somehow seem to lack in the modern age. Is it something like that?
There's just a certain amount of, if you see it in front of your face all day long, you should just accept that it's real.
I think it's a classic, like if you ever seen that that meme of like the low IQ person and then the midwit screeching,
Yeah.
and then the high IQ person agreeing with the low IQ person. I think it's exactly that. And and I'm not dissing you here.
No, you
I
kinda
completely
nailed
agree with you.
it.
But the low IQ take is just, dude, you know it exists. Like, it's just there. And when you asked that question, you actually reminded me, like, it was like fucking, like, I was like in Search of Lost Time, like looking at the scene with the Madeline cookie, like the memory, just like, woo, I just remember the lecture I watched talking about this exact thing. And it was a lecture on Don Quixote of all things. But that's that's a book written, it's a Spanish book written in a predominantly, it's like the Catholic institution was strong there. There's a lot of there's a lot of Catholic influence on that book, and the way you phrased it, like common sense, is you need to have you basically have an objective standard for what makes sense or not. And these days in postmodernity, we love deconstructing, being like there is no objective standard, that kind of thing, and that's where people might have issue with common sense, because they love deconstructing things and they deny there is a actual objective basis to have certain beliefs. And what this professor is talking about is how, basically common sense comes from Christianity. The idea that everyone at least has enough sense to believe in God, or everyone at least has enough sense that they can make the choice to believe in God. It was something along those lines, but it has its roots in Christianity.
Right.
And I mean, that's why I think it's interesting that particularly now when Christianity is all under attack,
Right.
especially by the postmodernists, they're the ones who most hate the idea of common sense.
Oh, the postmodernists.
Well, you know what's funny is I've always said, like, or maybe it's not just me, but I think that sometimes you have to be a pretty smart person to do wild mental gymnastics to not believe common sense. To find rational reasons to not believe something that is right in front of your face. Because it almost takes a certain level of intelligence to reverse engineer something that's very intrinsic.
You have to be educated to be this stupid.
No,
Yes.
it like reminds me, if you've ever watched, I feel like you more likely saw this than you, but Fairly Odd Parents, popular cartoon.
I did actually see it.
Oh, okay.
I've seen it. It was like the end of like good cartoons,
Yeah.
in my opinion. Yeah.
I could go on about Fairly Odd Parents, but basically there was a scene that I remember where, like, there was a rich kid, appropriately named, like, Richie Bucks Aplenty, and at some point I think, like, he got, like, a D from the teacher, Professor, Mr. Crocker or whatever, I think it was his name, right? And like, he always loved giving students D's and stuff, and so this rich kid hired, like, Stephen Hawking to come, and, like, his student wrote, like, 2 + 2 = 5, but like the guy he hires Stephen Hawking, and Stephen Hawking uses a very elaborate explanation for, actually, yes, 2 + 2 does equal 5.
Yes. I mean, there are those people who have those esoteric arguments. Well, 2 + 2 can equal 5 if and but, and it's like, no, but it doesn't. Like, I understand that you're trying to intellectualize something that is very simple, but there's something about that really turns me off. And it's not about being a smart or a stupid person. It's just like there's a certain amount of reality that we all experience and we all accept and we all partake in. And rejecting that is also kind of, and I hate the privilege argument, but it is a point of privilege. To sit around and argue something that is so kind of pointless, it is kind of a privileged thing to do. I mean, so much of the world doesn't have that luxury, and they can't sit around and argue about things that really don't have any point. They're something that we've understood for over 1,000 years.
No, I mean, this kind of all goes actually back to the roots of philosophy itself. Like, if you go back to around the time when Socrates was around, a bit before, there were the sophists. I mean, we still have that phrase, sophistry, right? And the sophists were basically like the lawyers of their era. They were like, pay me and I will argue any point you want.
Yes.
And it doesn't matter, they would constantly be like, there is no truth, or whatever. Or truth is whoever has the most power or something. Just whoever would pay them the most money, they would argue their points. And then that's why it was such a... that's why like Socrates and Plato was such a huge influence, because they basically walk into the stage and like, yes, there is objective truth. Yes. And that's also why like Plato and Socrates were like so were appropriated by the Christians too. Because like that kind of fed into the whole thing, and they used the Platonic arguments and stuff, but they applied it to Christianity, and that's what helped Christianity spread in like Greece and that in Eastern Europe and that kind of thing, and expanded outward from there. But I mean, that's why I think the Bible, the Gospel of John, I think that's originally written in Greek. But sorry, that's the point is that like the argument for an objective truth was controversial thousands of years ago, and also like the fact that Christianity takes that stance, and then that spread throughout Europe and is a big part of our culture. And now once again we've reached a point where people want to to dismantle that.
It almost sounds like you're making the case for an objective truth through like a subjective lens, in that it's not that there is an objective truth, it's that it's just been widely believed by a large population of people, and because they share that baseline objective truth.
No, I'm saying they were right. That large group of people were right.
Well, there's a reason we always go back to that stuff, and there's a reason you study it in college. There's a reason there's a whole subject of philosophy, because we can learn something from the past, and we shouldn't ignore these things. Trying to reinvent it in the modern age is kind of the problem. I mean, there's certain things that are just objective truths. I mean, for example, is it a good idea to poison the water supply of your town? I mean, like, there's someone who's going to argue that. There's someone who's going to argue.
A lawyer.
Yeah, a lawyer. Well, I mean, look at lawyers do the most backwards logic ever, and there's cases going on today, and many famous cases. I mean, even South Park made a whole episode about the OJ lawyer. I don't know if you've seen it.
That's a Wookiee one or something.
Yeah, look at the silly monkey. Look at the silly monkey, and he's like confusing people, just by talking about random nonsense. And I think that like we see a lot of that going on, but there are certain things that are objective truths. But no matter how true something is, you'll always find someone that argues it. And the problem is, like with anything else in life, the small minority of people that are super loud tend to weigh in heavily, especially on the internet. And that's why in the internet era, a lot of this stuff has become a lot more prevalent, whereas 20 years ago, someone just would have shut you down instantly. Like, that's absolutely absurd. No one cares about your opinion. But the internet has kind of given a voice to the voiceless, for better or worse, but in many cases for the worse. I mean, if you're someone who's into, like, having sex with dogs, like, you can find a community for that. Yes. You can find a whole group of people that says that's totally cool. There's nothing wrong with you. What's wrong with you for not liking it? There's thousands of those people. And when you think about the fact that there's thousands of them, it makes it seem relevant. But it's not relevant. No, you should not have sex with the dog. I don't care what anyone says. I will die on that hill.
So, no, yeah, same. That's just an objective standard.
I think so. Yes. I mean, I think there's plenty of those. I gave a ridiculous example, but I mean, I could give you 100 more. I think that one example drives the point home enough. But like, whatever you want to argue, someone's going to argue the opposite. Right. Whatever weird thing you're into, there's 1,000 more of them. And the internet has given this balloon effect to all of these people, to where now people will find their community, they'll find their spot, and they will die on weird hills. And I think it's our job as a civilized society to reject these people and just say, no, you're wrong. And like, time to move on. 2 + 2 does not equal 5. Shut up. Or you have like some weird teacher that's, old and childless and sad saying weird things to you, and you're just like, maybe you're wrong.
Yeah.
If you're like a 13 years old or something and you hear you have a weird teacher saying weird things, you're probably right. It's not her,
Mm-hmm. Trying to remember a positive and normative statement. You guys familiar with positive and normative statements in economics?
I don't know. It makes me think of college, but
Yeah.
it's been a long time.
Yeah, you're gonna have to give us a refresher.
Okay, so I remember talking to an economist on this, and I was describing exactly what you guys are talking about right now, and he gives me the argument of positive statements are describing things as they are, and a normative statement is sort of like, policy prescriptions, what you want to do with the information at hand. So saying like something like 2 + 2 = 5 is obviously wrong. It's 4. But if somebody were to talk about how they feel about 2 + 2 = 5, and what we should do with that information, that would be a normative statement. And
Sure.
that's kind of like the dichotomy that I always think about, is that there's the material objective reality of something actually being true, and then it's how you interpret it that sort of matters in the end. And I find that, I think I agree with you guys in principle. We all would agree that, for example, poisoning a water supply is a terrible idea. But I think when I'm questioning myself how to convince somebody who thinks differently, which, hopefully they're in the minority, if you say just the objective fact, that's not going to convince them. What you're like kind of engaging in is some kind of war of ideas. And the Foucaultian/Nietzschean argument would be the person with the most influence and the most power is going to win out in the end, whether or not they're right. And so if you want to see the world become a better place, then you kind of have to embody whatever truth that is. And maybe you believe it to be objective, but you have to put yourself out there and see it manifest itself in the real world. What do you guys think of that?
You have a very articulate way of putting to what I would say, I just don't care how you feel. Like, I just straight up don't care. Like, I get your point, of course, but people, a solid argument does not come from a place of feelings. It's not always coming from a place of fact either. You could have a mixture of both. I mean, it's not always wrong, but arguing solely on feelings is a mistake, because feelings are subjective. They are relative, they are anecdotal. So if you argue only from feelings, or if someone is arguing with you only from feelings, or with only anecdotal evidence, at a certain point you just kind of have to be like, I don't really care. And that's kind of the point I've gotten to in my life when I argue with these types of people. I'm not always discrediting their feelings, and I'm not doubting that they feel that way. I just personally don't care.
Yeah, well, it's like, okay, Kafka, you want to poison the water well? You give me a good argument for it. And if he was like, well, everyone in that area are all notorious. Probably gonna have to censor that word, by the way. But
PDF files.
Yeah. They're all notorious PDF files. Then you're like, well, I really don't like this Kafka guy, but I think he's making a good point right here.
I mean, I might be on board with that one.
It's like
and again,
but that's like an actual there's reason there. It's not feelings.
Sure, but that's also like in this fictional scenario, I would be on your side. There's no town of just PDF files. But, I mean, if you go like poison this guy's house, just this guy's water, I'd be like, I'll look the other way on that one. But, like, in general, yes, I get your point.
So I guess, like, okay, for example, let's take that there are objective truths. Let's say, is killing always bad? Because some people are going to say, like, is that morally...
No, there's plenty of people that should be killed.
They should be killed. Okay, so, like, I know I'm sounding just really ridiculous right now, but it's like a genuine question and a thought experiment. But, like, how do you know when killing is right and when killing is wrong?
When it's justified. Again, I kind of made this...
So, like, what I'm trying to do here is... Yes, I agree with you, but like the way that we get there is because again, when you discuss this with somebody who disagrees with you, and you say like, "I just know," they're not going to listen to you, and you're saying you don't care.
Yeah,
which is fair.
Yes,
I would like to participate in some kind of discussion where they listen to
Well,
me.
some people you're just never gonna listen no matter what. But
Some people are just disingenuous. They're like, I have my
Right.
and that's honestly, I think you've had enough experiences. Because I've kind of arrived at this point of certain topics, like especially like any topic relating basically to spirituality, that kind of thing. I was like, I don't want to talk about that because I've just arrived at a point where I've had enough discussions with people where there's so many bad faith arguments you hear where it's just not worth. I just don't care. I know my stance, and you probably know your stance, and I just don't care. It's not worth having a conversation.
I agree. It's exhausting to be that amicable. To always placate someone who says ridiculous things. I understand that you have to do it in certain scenarios. Again, maybe if you're a lawyer, you're trying to make an argument or whatever. But in your day-to-day life, you absolutely do not need to placate ridiculous people. And you shouldn't. And when it comes to the murder thing, I said before, if I was king of the world, I would kill so many people. But of course the ones who deserve it. Not random people, and not people I don't like. Not like, it's not Death Note. I'm just saying there's people that are dead to rights, caught on camera, doing horrendous things, and then they're on death row for 20 years, costing the taxpayers $40,000 a year for what? Why? I'm saying, when we have you on video, we know what you did. You have a record of doing it. We know everything about you. There's no possible gray area. Just, you're gone. Done.
For me, a person number one on the list. Number one on the list of living person who I would just be like, bye-bye. Is, do you know about I think her name was Junko, the Junko murder incident?
I do.
Yeah, you know about that.
Horrendous.
Horrendous. That was horrendous. What they
Yes.
did is basically this group of, they're middle school or high school age boys.
This is in Japan.
Yeah, in Japan. And the key point is that they were underage. And they basically abducted a middle school girl and just horrifically tortured her for something like 40 days.
It's 40 days.
Yeah, 40 days of just brutal torturing, and you're gonna have to censor that
Grape.
out too. Grape, yeah, grape. I have grape juice. And
well, they were also burning her with cigarettes.
Yes.
Kicking her. They broke all of her bones. Yeah, burning her with cigarettes, kicking her, punching her, and I think they brought in over 100 guys, random guys, and also, who would even be okay with this? And yeah, it's a middle school girl, and yes, everyone involved in that
is walking out free. Although one of them died recently in a I took great pleasure when I learned this. To quote Mark Twain, allegedly, I didn't read the Mark Twain quote itself. I read somebody else quoting the alleged Mark Twain quote, but I've never wished death upon anybody. But I've read some obituaries with great pleasure, and one of the people involved in that recently died because his head got stuck in his toilet seat somehow. I don't know how that happened, and he died on his own vomit or something. So that that guy probably he had it coming, but one of the main, but I also felt a little bit bad because that was a guy who of the main people involved, he was the least involved. And if you know how male gangs work, he was probably the guy who was just roped into it, and he didn't, he was too much involved in his crew. He couldn't say no. The main guy behind it is, to this day, he walks around and he goes around Kabukicho and places bragging about how he's the one who did that. He actually brags about it, and that guy for me, number one on the list.
Yeah, I don't know that I've ever thought about the hierarchy of people I would want to get rid of. Because I honestly don't really know who they are. I would just probably look at their rap sheet and be like, you're done, you're done, you're done, and go down the list, and I would be like, oh, we just saved millions of dollars. Just eliminate, just take out the trash every once in a while. I don't see any benefit to having complete monsters in society. I don't think it benefits anyone, and I think it sets a bad example for people that you can get away with this kind of thing, or you can even. In American prison, for example, you can have some sort of semblance of a normal life, even in prison. You hang out with your friends, you play cards, you drink some toilet wine. It's not all that bad. I'm not a big fan of that. I think that they should have it much worse.
I mean, look, these phrases, I'll play devil's advocate side a little bit, because my dad's, he's a Quaker, and they believe in pacifism. They're definitely on the 100%,
I have friends like this too.
Capital punishment, that kind of thing. And you know what? I think a good model, Russia. what did Russia do with a lot of their prisoners? They just sent them to Siberia, and often under such horrible conditions where it's like, well, you died. Well, you know what? Sucks for you. But they didn't kill them necessarily. We just sent them to Siberia where it's freezing. And you know what? America, big country, and we have our own Siberia. It's called Alaska.
Yeah. At a certain point, certain people just need to make big rocks into small rocks. That should be their whole day.
Well, AI is going to cause some problems there.
That's
man.
their whole day. They should have no place in society, and they shouldn't be doing anything else.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's another one of those opinions that I'm sure someone out there doesn't like this opinion. But I would believe most rational people, if I had to guess, 90% are probably going to somewhat agree with what I'm saying.
Yeah.
To a large degree. Is it a perfect idea? And am I not half joking, I'm a little bit joking about some of the stuff that I'm saying, but kind of not really. Like, yeah, let's just take out the trash. Let's get rid of these people. Like, enough's enough. And also scare everyone else to not do it.
Yeah.
Like, the punishment for a lot of crimes in America is way too lax. And of course, I'm not saying, like, get rid of people that commit, like, a Ponzi scheme or a financial fraud or shoplift. It's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the worst of the worst, the people that we can all agree are terrible people. And if you don't agree with me, I would actually watch you. Like,
some of those financial crimes you just listed, mainly just a Ponzi scheme. A Ponzi scheme isn't like insider trading or something like that. I mean, this is you knowingly just stealing from people. I'm not saying they deserve a death sentence or something.
They deserve some punishment,
but they definitely deserve like a serious punishment.
The death sentence should be reserved for the worst of the worst.
Yeah.
I think most people will agree with that. We're not saying go and get rid of 80% of the prison. I believe there is room for reform for plenty of people.
I just mean like shoplifting. It's like, okay, you should definitely, definitely be given a second chance. Like, okay,
sure.
You might have fucked up, whatever.
Dude, who hasn't shoplifted as a kid? I shoplifted sponges as a kid, like the little plastic sponges that like turn into animals. Right. And my mom took me to the store and made me like give it back to some random person behind the counter who was super confused, but I was humiliated as a kid. But yes, you can totally give second chances.
Yeah. And some things deserve second chances like that. A Ponzi scheme, okay, I mean, just personally I'd be like, 10 years at least. Like you can come back to society, but you're going to need to spend a good amount of time away. Because that was very deliberate. That was very deliberate, like scamming people.
Well, also we have people in our own government that do massive insider trading. I mean, like, and they're never going to face any punishment. But they should. And also, trading within our own government, again, in America, should absolutely not be allowed. You cannot vote on things that you can invest in. Yes. That is absurd. Like, what is going on? And I feel like most people that know about this or are aware of it, everyone knows, like, Nancy Pelosi is like a crazy witch. Like, we all know that she's insider trading. She's been doing it for decades.
And I mean, we brushed on this topic before, but that's basically the whole reason why I think anti-trading laws should be getting rid of, because the worst perpetrators are like legally protected from it. So it's like at that point you're only punishing the small fries.
And actually, you see it within governments all across the world. It's not just America. That's the one I'm most knowledgeable in. Mm-hmm. But maybe people in other countries can weigh in on this. Mm-hmm. Like, please tell us, in your country, what are people doing that is wrong? I'm very curious. I would like to know. But I know that it's not an American problem. It's going on all over the world where the government siphons off all the money from the people and invests it within themselves. And, again, this is a punishable crime for a normal person. But somehow they're immune to it. And we all know what's going on. Maybe this even ties back into the common sense.
Right.
You know it when you see it. It's all something that we know, and it's almost like an open secret. No one does anything about it. No one says anything about it. We all allow it to happen. It's absurd.
Weren't there trillions of dollars that they weren't able to find?
Oh yeah, I'm sure. I mean, like.
But if we don't pay the IRS, if we make a certain amount of money, we go to jail.
Yeah, I mean, like, they're even at this point over the last administration, they started watching Venmo, which is like the craziest thing in the world, where they're taking tax on Venmo, which is really terrible because we've all been out to eat with friends or something, and you split the bill, and so you're like, oh, okay, I'm Venmoing my friend, $50 or whatever it is. I forgot what the limit was, and I could be wrong. I'm sure someone will correct me. I want to say it was if you have over $600 in Venmo transactions, it's like a taxable thing from the government. But that means you're being double taxed. You pay tax for the food, you pay tax or triple tax, you pay tax for the income, and then the government's coming after Venmo as well. And that's due to the last administration coming in and basically saying like, oh, now this is taxable. And so again, if you're an artist or something, this is terrible. You know, you're being nickel and dimed repeatedly.
No, we live in an era of nickel and diming, and this ties into like this how we're all renting everything. How Klaus Schwab was like not only on point, like his predictions were a bit. He overestimated a bit. 2030, we will own nothing and be happy. I mean, definitely not happy. He's right about the first part, owning nothing part. Being happy, I'm iffy on that. I'm sure he's happy about it. But we've reached there, and it's just all this constant nickel and diming. Every fucking, service, like, is this a subscription service now? You can't buy any even software, you can't even buy. This is why I am very pro-piracy. But, like, you can't buy software. And then, like, recently, like, Amazon, I think, like, Amazon Prime already pissed me off because you had to pay Amazon Prime to have access to these videos, and then like half of them are behind a paywall. So it's like
right.
you have to subscribe to Amazon you have to pay for the privilege to pay.
Also, what if you bought the movie 20 years ago?
Yeah, exactly.
You're still buying it again.
Right.
So you have to like pay Amazon just for the privilege to rent the movie, to pay extra to rent it, and that already I was against. And now apparently they've implemented a feature where they put ads, and you have to buy a higher level subscription so you don't get ads. And I'm just like, it's just in shitification, you know. And it's just all this nickel and diming, and then you have like Netflix and Disney. I know people have already made the comparison of how it's basically the cable networks all over again, but this is applying for everything.
You know who else is really bad about it? Nintendo.
Yeah.
Nintendo is awful because you can buy the same game like 3 times. There should be, we've all had like the same Nintendo or PlayStation account. Like in my case, I think I made my PlayStation account in 2006. You could buy the same game on Vita, but then there's like a remake or a remaster and a remaster of a remaster over and over and over. When originally, like I bought Final Fantasy VIII in like 1997. Like what the hell is going on? Like I've bought it or Final Fantasy X, I think I've bought like 3 times. There should be like a legacy thing. Like if you bought it, you've bought it. They could actually do a large service to the people because the graphics are 20% better. Cool. And then they're 20% better again. It's like, okay, I just feel like you're giving me the finger at this point. Like, because also especially when they come out with cool box sets and collector's things, you're like, I kind of want it, but it's like, we're all falling into the same scheme. But then when it comes to like the old Nintendo DS's and the stuff you bought on Wii, again, classic games don't transfer to other systems, so you can rebuy the same thing over and over and over. And if it's a game you love, you probably will. I'm sitting here complaining about it, and I've totally done it. So it's a messed up system. There's never a moment where they're like, you know what, we should do something for our fans. We should do something for the people that have supported us for decades.
I don't understand the logic behind Nintendo at all, because like they have, like on Switch, they have a emulation service kind of.
Yes.
But like there's only like 30 games on it.
Right.
And they can easily upload the whole entire library, but there's only 30 games, and they don't put any of the OG Pokemon games.
Right.
But then they'll go after you for pirating the games,
Right.
and it's like, well, there's no, at this point, I don't think there's any legal way to play the original Pokemon games like Gen 1 or 2 and 3 without having to just buy a used copy. Which, the crazy part there is Nintendo isn't making money off of used copies. So, like, even from a profit-oriented standpoint, I don't understand why they just don't, like, at least let you play on their emulation service.
They're not idiots. They know, like, what a Raspberry Pi is. They know that this stuff exists, that for $60, you can basically get their entire catalog for free. And there's tons of those Chinese bootleg knockoffs on Amazon that comes with, like 5,000 games or whatever it is. It's like $60. They could totally corner this market, but they don't. Instead, they go cease and desist and attack normal people for downloading something.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, like, we all know what's going on here. It is just a complete nickel and dime situation.
Yeah. I mean, have you guys heard of Super Mario 3D All-Stars?
I mean,
Yeah.
I know the game.
Mhm.
So the game came out, I think, in 2020 and was only available for a limited time for about 6 months in 2020. And if you have an emulator at your house, like say like a Mac M1, M2, M3, or even like a really high functioning PC, you can probably emulate Super Mario 64 with a better frame rate and better textures than the actual thing that Nintendo is selling.
So I bought that game.
Yeah.
I own it. I own a physical copy.
Yeah.
It pissed me off.
Yes.
So I grew up playing Mario 64, like OG. It came with my N64, you know, like 1998 or whatever.
So did I.
And also the original controller, which a lot of people talk badly about the N64 controller, and I get it. It is a little weird, but that game feels so good. Mario 64 is like peak N64 controller. It's fantastic. Same thing with maybe Smash Brothers, Ocarina of Time, a few other games. If you take away the controller, it actually feels weird.
Mm-hmm.
But in general, like trying to play that sort of thing on a Switch, it's like unplayable. It was unplayable to me, and so it's like, why did I buy this? Like, I would just rather go back to the N64.
Mm-hmm.
It just feels better to me, and also you have the nostalgia, and you put it on a CRT TV. It just feels better in every way.
Same era, weird ass controller. I always thought it looked like a yacht. The Dreamcast controller.
I love the Dreamcast.
I love it.
Other than the cord is on the wrong side.
Yeah.
Aside from the cord being on the wrong side,
Yes.
the Dreamcast controller is fantastic.
I 100% agree.
1999, guys. 1999, like Sonic Adventure, right?
Oh yeah, that game was great.
Shenmue.
Mm.
Shenmue
Oh,
was great,
Never
too.
played it, but I saw it like
it's
that.
great.
I used to be Chinese or something.
A long time ago,
What's
I
this?
was Chinese.
Sorry to interrupt.
This is-
Bathroom break.
well, the whole.
Yeah, that's appropriate.
I mean, I think
That's
that
pretty long anyway.
Yeah,
No,
that's good. That's good. That's a good cuff point.